there's a knockoff product out there that is not made by us. It made one of the other companies. The name starts with a T. If you cut theirs open, it looks like a dumpster inside. You cut ours open, and it looks like a Marine Corps barracks.
Hi there, and welcome into a brand new week on Celebrity Salute, dedicated to the men and women who serve our country in active duty, our veterans and their families. We're here for you. God bless you. We love you. On each episode, we look for people and stories with some connection to these heroes. I am Randy Miller. Bob Parsons is, first of all, a Marine and served in Vietnam. He's also an entrepreneur, billionaire, and philanthropist. In 1997, he founded the GoDaddy group of companies, including internet domain name registrar GoDaddy.com. In July of 2011, he sold approximately 70% of GoDaddy to a private equity consortium and resigned his position as CEO. Parsons is the founder and CEO of Yam Worldwide, which is home to his entrepreneurial ventures in the fields of power sports, golf, real estate, marketing, and launched Parsons Extreme Golf, or PXG. In 2012, Parsons and his wife Renee founded the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation, which provides funding to many nonprofits, including the Semper Fi Fund. His very candid memoir is out now, Fire in the Hole, the untold story of my traumatic life and explosive success. And Bob joins us right here on Celebrity Salute. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing great, Randy. Thank you.
Hey, it is so great to talk to you. I've admired your work for so many years. I'm a huge customer of GoDaddy and always have been. And in fact, just today, I registered a domain site, which is bobparsonsinterview.com.
Well, how about that, huh? Well, I'm not sure what that'll be worth in the future. But,
you never know.
Maybe $8.95.
Man, Bob, I have thoroughly enjoyed your book. I really, really loved reading that. And, I read some parts in there that you and I have a few things in common.
All right.
We're both married to women named Renee. We both enjoy nitrous at the dentist office. We both love mayonnaise sandwiches.
Well, there you go.
Right. We both appreciate our men and women in uniform.
For sure.
And I also bought pot from Dave the Dude.
Well, I didn't know his distribution network was that wide.
It's pretty wide. Yeah.
I thought it was just in my high school in Patterson.
No, he hit Knoxville, Tennessee, too. He had a very wide circle.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. So you grew up in Baltimore. Your first entrepreneurial venture on your way to becoming a billionaire was the lemonade stand at 10 years old.
There you go. And
got to tell that story.
I'll tell you what, it was something. Well, I made lemonade out of a big bottle of lemon juice I found in the refrigerator, and some sugar and some water, and no matter how I mixed it and how much sugar I put in, I could not get it to taste right. And I just thought, well, maybe this is the way it's supposed to taste. So the first guy I sold it to, and, I had this picture that had, little water running down it, from the sweat on it and the ice in it. And it was this guy that was walking a debit route for an insurance company, which they did back then. And so this guy is sweating his ass off. And it's probably August in Baltimore, so hot. And so he's got his sport coat slung over his back, his pork pie hat cocked on the back of his head. He's got his tie loosened. He's sweat running down his forehead. And he says to me, "Man, this is just what I need." Well, I was selling it for a nickel, and he gave me a dime. And he said, keep the change. And I thought, man, that's just, how lucky can I be? And then he took this Dixie cup lemonade, cocked it back, threw it, swallowed most of the whole thing. And then I see his eyes bulge. I seen him shake. And then he's spitting into the street. And he goes, "Jesus Christ, it's the worst fucking lemonade I've ever tasted." and then he stomped off, spitting into the street. And undeterred, I sent a little car. I sold the cup to Susie and Hamill, who was my neighbor across the street. She came back and says, "My mother says you got to give me my nickel back," and I did. And then Barry Malcolm, who spit it out. And then my mother came home and she said, "What is wrong?" And I, "What are you doing?" I said, "Mom, I'm selling lemonade." And she goes, "How'd you make it?" And I said, "Well, I took the bottle of lemon juice you had in the refrigerator." And then she goes, "I keep vinegar in that bottle." And that was the genesis for that. That exploded.
When you were describing this guy in the book, and that's why you got the writing is so good and so vivid. But when you're describing this guy, it just reminded me of that guy Ned from Groundhog's Day. It just seemed like that same kind of guy that is. And he's drinking this lemonade. Oh my gosh!
He wasn't much different.
Yeah. Well, and reading about your childhood and kind of semi-raising yourself and all those kind of lessons, and a Marine recruiter. This really struck with me too. But a Marine recruiter was the first person to ever call you a man.
Yeah, he was.
Wow.
He called me and my two buddies. He said, we went to enter the recruiting office, and he said, "How are you men doing? Come over here and sit down." And of course we did. And then, he talked to us and he rooted around in his closet and he said, "I was going to pour you men a drink, but I'm all out." And tell you what, that certainly resonated with us. And after about talking to him for about an hour or so, he said, "If you men want, I'll see if I can get you in." Now, we had no idea that the moment we walked through the door, we were already in. But so anyhow,
But that didn't last long, did it? The calling you a man and offering, looking for a drink when you got to Paris Island.
It wasn't that way at Paris Island.
Right.
And anybody that's been to Paris Island or MCRD or any kind of boot camp, you don't get that kind of greeting there. I think we were called ladies and pukes and whatever else, but we weren't called men.
I like what you were describing, how your drill instructor asked you about your tan lines. Why do you have those funny-looking tan lines?
Yeah, that's what he did. He was brutal to me on those.
It's interesting, Bob. I've interviewed Fred Smith, who started FedEx and served in Vietnam. And I see a lot of similarities there between you guys because, like you, his perseverance was the thing that kind of took him through because, FedEx was started with a loan that almost went bad. And, so many things that go into business, and especially with your business, man. How many times do people say, you're out of your mind?
Well, people say that to me every time I started anything. They started when I started my first software company. They did when I started what became GoDaddy. Even down the road when we had a little bit of success, they told me I was nuts. And but when I entered the domain name business, the tall hog at the trough, the market leader was Network Solutions.
Right.
And in 2005, after my first Super Bowl commercial, we pulled even with them in registrations, and 18 months later, we doubled them. And when I did the deal with the company, we had over a 70% market share worldwide.
And this is back when, it's hard to imagine for a lot of people when there were no domain names. But I can remember seeing that commercial. And by the way, that first GoDaddy commercial in the Super Bowl, that was not with Danica Patrick, right?
It was with a lady by the name of Candace Michelle. And she was on a casting call that had hundreds of people trying out for the position. She was dead last, and the guys chose her. And when they did, they said, "Bob, we just found your next ex-wife."
Wow. Wow. And I remember seeing that commercial and thinking, what is this GoDaddy deal? And your idea behind it, Bob, is so savvy because you wanted to find something, and I think you describe it in your book as dull as sawdust, domain names and things like that. And you wanted to put something to make it exciting and make people remember the commercial. And man, did it ever, right?
Yeah. And so we did that with the first commercial, which was a parody of the Janet Jackson, Justin Timberlake. The
wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, the wardrobe malfunction. And when we did the parody, it was it just didn't resonate. Yeah, I mean, when we finally got the thing approved, the salesman from Fox Network called me and goes, "You want to buy another spot?" For the 2-minute warning. And we ran the first, and I bought it, and they gave me a nice deal on it, but I bought it. And then so they approved my commercial in writing twice. So when the first episode ran, the response was great. The building shook, the servers shook, but they held. And so we thought when the second one was getting ready to go, it was Philadelphia getting ready to score on New England, and that's when our commercial was supposed to show. And instead of our commercial showing, there was a Fox Network ad showing something much more acceptable than a tank top strap snapping, which Candace Michelle caught. Nothing, you didn't show anything. They showed Homer Simpson stabbing a baby.
Homer Simpson stabbing a baby.
So it never did show our second one. And then by the time everything was done, all said and done, I called the head of Fox Sports, and he said, your commercial was out of tenor from the rest of the ads. Call me tomorrow and let me know what's going on.
You had to be going nuts. You had to be going absolutely nuts.
Oh, no, I wasn't. Actually, I talked to the guy who was my right-hand man at the company back then, and I said to him, "Can we be this lucky?" And I knew it was a home run because they've never, I've never seen anything remotely like that.
Right.
And I wrote a blog article telling exactly what happened, put it on the internet. It was picked up all over the world. I did interviews from sunup to sundown for a week. And I mean, we were on every talk show. I mean, we had people, the GoDaddy girl was on the Today Show, the Tomorrow Show, the Tonight Show. She was on Howard Stern. Wow. And I told her, I said, "You better not get in that super soaker or that big squirt gun." And she said, "Oh, I won't, Bob. Don't worry." She was true to her word. She didn't.
And I want to go back for just a second, Bob, about before you started GoDaddy, you had a company called Parsons Technology, kind of like home accounting software. And I love how you went about assembling your first call center. It was just like women in the neighborhood, right?
Oh, they were all wearing curlers. And, and they had the sexiest voice and it just looked like, it looked like a salon for women to get their hair done.
But from that, you learned so much about call centers, and still to this day, and I say it to everybody, when you have a problem or you have anything happen with your domains at GoDaddy, it's the best customer experience that I've ever had. And I know that's intentional.
Oh, for sure it is. And there you go, or at least it was when I owned it.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about Danica Patrick here. So Danica Patrick, you and Danica met each other and worked together for 10 years, 13 Super Bowl commercials. Man, I mean, what a relationship that turned out to be, right?
Oh, it turned out to be perfect. I mean, you could go into a gas station and ask anybody, have you heard about GoDaddy.com, and they'd say, yeah, Danica Patrick. And then I'd say, have you ever heard of a celebrity called Danica Patrick? They go, oh, GoDaddy.com. And I mean, and it was just a perfect deal. You know, Danica and I argue about who would help most. She says, I helped her more. I said she helped us more. And, you know, it's a perfect business relationship.
Oh, man, absolutely. And at that time, you know, her star was kind of on the rise. You caught her at a great time and certainly gave her so much more exposure than she would have had. But, man, she did the same thing for GoDaddy. And, you know, I remember talking to people about GoDaddy when you guys first started, and they had no idea what it was. They just go, yeah, Danica Patrick, you know, the Super Bowl. Right. What is it? I'm not sure.
now, if you ask anybody about where to get a domain name, they'll always say GoDaddy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When did your passion for golf? When did that start?
Well, it started when I was a young kid, but I mean, it really took hold after I started making money with Parsons Technology. And I would, me and a couple of the guys that I worked with, we would go play golf on a Wednesday. We retook up the game altogether. None of us were any good. We're all terrible. And then we got better over the years. And as we got better, we'd go and play Wednesday afternoon. Then we'd play Wednesday afternoon and Thursday morning, and then Wednesday afternoon, Thursday morning, Saturday and Sunday. We would in the winter we would look for seminars or any type of convention that was remotely tied in with what we did, and that was located in Florida or Arizona. And then we'd book it. We'd go there, never go to one meeting they had, and we'd play golf the whole time.
And you were my kind of guy, Bob. So you sell GoDaddy in 2011. You get $2.3 million in cash, and
billion.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's an important word. Billion.
That's 2.3 billion, Chuck.
2.3 billion in cash, and kept 29% of GoDaddy. And so but you had a non-compete, right? That you couldn't do anything for 2 years?
Oh, no. That was when I sold Parsons Technology.
Okay. All right. So you could,
okay. So in a way, you're right. So anyhow, that was a different time. So anyhow, I took a couple of years off and I played golf, and, my buddy said, man, you're going to get so much better. I never got any better. But I'll tell you what, what it did for me, I knew I needed to be back in the business game. And so I took, during that time, my wife booted me, and she booted me just before that. And, we split everything we had. She got more than I did. She deserved it. She deserved everything she got. She put up with my dumb ass for all that time. and so I took and played golf, and then I decided to get back in the business world. And when I did, and I started what became GoDaddy, I had 36 million. And I'd keep track of it based on how much money I had. And this is back in 97. And by the time 2001 rolled around, I was down to $6 million, and I had moved the company into an old ranch and done everything to kind of survive. And I thought, well, I had some money, I would, I had some money, I would continue to run the company. But I also, at that time, decided I would pack it in because I didn't see any way this company would make it. So I went to Hawaii to make a plan to how I would wind things down, pay employees and, pay creditors and, all that sort of stuff. And so during that time, I also started, while time started passing, I kept thinking I didn't want to shut this company down. I did not want to shut it down. And then we got to the point where I went and a guy was parking cars, and this is where the epiphany happened.
I love the story.
Yeah, he's as happy as can be, throwing the keys up in the air. How you doing, Mr. Parsons? I'll have your car for you in a minute, all that sort of stuff. And I thought, what's wrong with this picture? This guy's parking cars, probably has nothing, right? He's happy as a lark. I got $6 million and I'm miserable. And so it occurred to me that I didn't need money to be happy. The money was causing me to be unhappy. So I decided to go back to Scottsdale and, kind of tie myself to the mast, if you will. And if the GoDaddy ship sunk, I'd sink right with it. And I thought, man, if I went broke, what's the worst thing that can happen? My father always told me, Robert, they can't eat you. And I thought, well, you know what? I will take and just I park cars, or I'd go to Vegas and maybe be a stick man on a table. I always wanted to do that. And but anyhow, the company didn't go broke. And what happened was, a few months after that, the dot-com crash happened. And since I was the guy paying all the bills for GoDaddy, I didn't, I survived just as though I was nothing happened. But everybody else who relied from funding from venture capital companies, from banks, from the stock market and all, they went broke. And we would have every week, there'd be somebody we would send checks to, and the checks would come back undeliverable. And the company just vanished. There's no forwarding address, nothing. They just sent us the check back, and I said, well, I guess we don't have to pay that. Anyhow, a little as that time went on, whereas before that, because of all the new noise of the .com boom, I couldn't buy advertising at any price. After the .com crash, I had people standing in line to give me advertising.
Oh, I bet.
I had more friends than I thought I had, Randy.
Well, okay, so then you fast forward, you sell GoDaddy for $2.3 billion, Chuck. And that's when you kind of looked around. You bought the Scottsdale Country Club, and then that passion for golf comes up, and you launch Parsons Extreme Golf. I got to tell you a funny story I just heard a couple of days ago, because I love golf. And a buddy of mine said a buddy of his just bought a set of these clubs, and he cannot believe how much further he's hitting the ball. He cannot, listen, this is not a commercial, but this is exactly what he said. And, when you hear something from a golfer that has some improvement, man, you listen to that. So what is it about these clubs?
Well, here's the deal. We don't release them unless they're significantly better than everything else available. And they feel better. They have, right now, we have developed the ability to have the face on the club is significantly the thinnest in golf. Nobody else can figure out how we do it. It's a trade secret. And we have a film cavity, and they are outstanding. There's a knockoff product out there that is not made by us. It made one of the other companies. Name starts with a T. If you cut theirs open, it looks like a dumpster inside. You cut ours open, and it looks like a Marine Corps barracks.
I love that. Bob, your realization of your entire life journey with PTSD, that was a strong part of the book, and talking about identifying that in your own life. And then you were determined to help other Marines with that. And you went into that the way you go into other businesses, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And it's all made a big difference for me.
Well, it's made a big difference for a lot of people, because the Bob and Renee Parsons Foundation gave away over $26 million last year to nonprofits, and a lot of that going for obviously veterans. So thank you so much for that, man.
Yeah. We just did we had a little barbecue outdoors. Man, it was cold over in California. And, one of the things they announced is that and I don't beat my chest too much, but I'm proud of this, is that what we've given to the Semper Fi Fund for injured Marines and injured members of all services this year just exceeded $100 million.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And I'm gonna tell you, Randy, where I come from, that's a stack of cash.
That's a stack of cash. We've worked with the Semper Fi Fund, and man, they do some outstanding work. And I know that you've done a lot with other nonprofits, but what makes you the proudest, Bob? Maybe when another Marine comes up to you and says how much you've helped his life.
Well, that is certainly one of the things, but of everything I have ever accomplished, the thing that makes me the most proud is I am a United States Marine. Mm. And that's it. I mean, that is it. That is everything to me. And when I'm in the company of fellow Marines or guys from the Army or guys, from the other branches, Navy and Air Force and Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard are the unsung heroes of the armed forces. Man, they do a tough job, and they risk their lives all the time, and they don't get the credit they should get. But anyhow, with them, it is wonderful. I also like being in the presence of cops, policemen. I mean, what a tough job they have. They're on the job all the time, and they're the only reason we have a society. Them and the fire department,
absolutely,
and the EMTs. And so anyhow, that whole group, those three, police, firefighters, EMTs, and the military, current and former. Well, we call them PXG heroes, and we take care of them. We give them significant discounts, much more so than anybody else would. And they're my people, and I love them.
Oh man, it's fantastic. It's fantastic, Bob. Listen, it has been such a pleasure to talk to you. I love the book, man. You got some great stories. When are you going to fly me out to Scottsdale to play at your club?
Well, you're a golfer.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Well, you let Leila know. We'll make arrangements.
Hey, Bob, thank you so much, man. It's so great to talk to you.
All right. You take care, brother. Bye now.
You've been listening to Celebrity Salute. Celebrity Salute is produced by Brainstorm Media and distributed by National Defense Network, with host Randy Miller and executive produced by Nate Herron. Be sure to visit us at nationaldefensenetwork.com. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also say, Alexa, play the National Defense Network podcast.